we humans have an amazing mind. And one of the great strengths and also the weaknesses of that mind of ours is the ability to interpret. And interpretation just means that we can use our sensory input, our feelings, to make sense of the world around us. A great skill in evolution, but also a great hindrance when it comes to understanding ourselves and our reality. And one of the things that we need to understand and navigate and eventually master is what happens when we project. Projection is something that happens when we have an experience, our inner experience, and we put the reason for that experience to something external to ourselves, usually to someone else, or plural, something that happens from a group of people, or just life. So when I feel danger, for example, which is something that, humans, evolutionary speaking, have needed to understand. There's a feeling of me being in danger right now. So there's a feeling of either fear or secondarily, maybe anger. When I feel that fear, I will naturally look around me or seek to the outside to see what is making me anxious, what is making me afraid, what is making me suspicious. Because if there is danger here, I need to figure out what it is so I can protect myself or flee. It's great. Sometimes we find ourselves in a space where it's like, wow, I don't want to be here. And sometimes that feeling will be information to us to remove ourselves from that space because it's not good for us. But a lot of the time, it's not real danger. That discomfort originates in me. And this is what is called projection. Or to say it in Norwegian, vi projiserer vår indre opplevelse på utsiden, som på et lerret. And returning to English, the world around me, I think I'm separate from it. I think I'm this individual in this infinite space, moving around in it. Sure, that is true also. But most of my experience is my inner experience that is projected onto my perception of the outside, of the external. Again, using another feeling, anger. I just have this feeling of anger, of being irritated. Maybe I'm sitting on public transport, maybe I'm in a group of people, and I feel this anger arising in me, or, we tend to downplay our feelings, so we have these smaller versions, supposedly, irritation, annoyance, If I have this emotion in me, projection means that I will look outside of myself to see what is causing this. And that plays havoc with our relations. Because when I have an unpleasant feeling, an unpleasant emotion, I will play that out on my surroundings. So I will be, unpleasant to other people. Because I think somehow, I'm not even aware of it most of the time, it's unconscious or subconscious. There's annoyance, and I will be annoying to other people. I will treat them in a way that, I don't like them, that there's something wrong with them. It even happens with good feelings, I'm feeling happy and I think, oh, this thing that I'm doing right now, or these people that I'm with, this person, he or she is the source of my happiness. Of course, what happens is that when I don't have that person right now or forever, the source of my happiness is gone. It's connected to an external object, an external person. And so my life becomes a movement or a journey in how can I cope, how can I control or manipulate my surroundings in order to have the things that I want and get rid of the things that I don't want. And for sure, we need to learn to recognize and navigate what external things in our lives are actually causing misery, causing happiness. It's also part of the journey. This is not about rejecting this particular dimension, because we are also individuals. Individuals moving in an unknown world. However, projection takes up a lot of my experience. So how do I learn to recognize this? How do I learn to recognize that I'm projecting my own stuff onto other people? Because typically what will happen is that, to backtrack a little bit, I've lived a life, no matter my age. And from that life I have a lot of baggage, I have a lot of programming. Many things have happened to me that have, touched me, gotten stuck in me. It determines my behavior, it determines how I act, it determines my thoughts, how I respond, If someone does something that is similar to something painful I experienced growing up, that will be a trigger. Something will get triggered in me that is actually mine. It's my baggage. Maybe I was 5 years old and someone shouted at me for something that I did. And maybe it happened repeatedly. Maybe it was a pattern for me when I grew up. So if someone shouts at me, even as an adult, that pattern from childhood will get triggered. And perhaps in order to protect myself as a child, I learned to withdraw. I learned to shut down to protect myself from that anger, from that judgment, from adults around me. Maybe I learned to shout back in order to stop that behavior. Maybe I learned to remove myself, and whenever I felt that someone judged me, interpreted that someone judged me, I would go away, I would leave. Of course, we see this a lot in relationships, like really close relationships and family. People are close to us. That's where a lot of our projections are really get magnified and where they control us a lot. There will be a trigger. Something happens that reminds me, again, unconsciously, usually, of something from my past. There might not be any memories from it even. And I will act that out. If I've learned to shut down and close myself off from certain emotions in other people, like if anger wasn't allowed in my home growing up, I would have learned to regulate that anger in some way. Repress it, because it's not accepted, it's not welcome. A part of me is not welcome. So whenever I feel anger, subconsciously I will think it's not okay. So something else happens to that anger. And the trigger, the person who triggers that pattern, will unconsciously be blamed in ourselves for our experience. So there's a trigger, and there's a response in me. And unconsciously I will think that everything, or almost everything that happens around me, someone is to blame, someone is the cause. But it's a projection. And projection means that the cause is in me. The pattern is me, in me, is what determines my interpretation and my response, which means that a lot of the time we don't have freedom of action. We're not free to understand what is really going on. And since we don't know what is going on, we can't do something different from what we're used to, different from our patterns. That's determinism. It means that we are forced in a way. Our pattern determines how we respond to a given situation, how we feel in a given situation, what we do when something happens. So how do we work with this? Because most of it is unconscious. We're not aware of it. We're not aware of it happening. It determines everything. And we have all these things, these feelings, these interpretations, thoughts that happen all the time. And so much of that is spent, it's actually an inner experience. It's just me happening. It's my past happening. It's my past being replayed over and over again. For example, if we notice ourselves having similar kinds of relationships, in every relationship there's the same stuff plays out. Life repeats itself. And to break out and becoming free means to take ownership of my own experience, of what is happening in me, in my life. It's me and it's mine. Only then can we also discern what is maybe not mine. So how do we do this? Because it's unconscious. We're not aware of it happening. It just happens. It's just trigger and response, trigger and response, trigger and response. So the key here is to disconnect from the trigger and turn the attention inwards. What is happening in me? So for example, someone I care about, someone close to me, says something to me, or they do something that I feel uncomfortable about. It doesn't matter what it is, but my mind will have a lot of thoughts about why they shouldn't be doing it or saying it. How I should be treated differently. How life should be different. How my colleagues should act towards me. That person is unkind. That person is angry. That person is doing something they shouldn't be doing. Visitors. Hi. So how do I work with this? How do I learn to discern and explore this part of me? Like I said, it's about disconnecting from the trigger and turning the attention inwards. So, that unpleasant thing happens. If I go into my mind and follow the thoughts, the interpretation, my judgment, I will just, rotate because I put the reason for my experience outside of myself. These people who just passed. Damn, they ruined my video. It's their fault. Fuckers. Nothing to do with it. No, I disconnect from the trigger. I disconnect or remove myself from the thoughts in my mind about the situation. And I feel myself. The thoughts will keep coming. And I keep, putting them away. Turning my attention to myself. Being aware of the thoughts can be a way of sort of analyzing through the mind, but the great value is to feel what is going on, because the emotions are what kind of contains and stores the pattern that has been, stored in me, that has been programmed in me. So I'll feel my body, because usually it will also be stored in my body. Everything that has happened to me is stored in my body. So maybe I feel this tension in my stomach. You close your eyes and you feel that point. You allow it to be there. You allow it to expand. Maybe it moves. Maybe it gets stronger. You follow it. You open yourself up to your inner experience. The external has nothing to do with this. This is me. This is mine. What is it that I carry? What is it that I feel? What is this tension? What is this fire? I allow it. I'm interested in it. I'm not interested in judging it. I'm not even interested in getting rid of it, because then I just push it away. I'm interested in bathing in it, allowing it to take over my experience, my awareness, to fill my awareness fully. This is what I'm experiencing in this moment. I'm willing to be here. What does this say about me? Maybe associations will show up, memories from the past, people from earlier on in my life. Don't know what is going on. I don't want to know what's going on. I want to feel. I want to be present. Because only when I don't know what is going on, then I'm open to there being something more than what I think I know. Only then can new things appear, unknown things. I will get really, really angry and upset with my partner or whatever. Yeah, but what is this upset that I'm feeling inside? What is the real emotion? Maybe it grows and grows into rage, People in my past crossed my boundaries and stepped on me, like, repeatedly. Of course that has shaped me. Of course that determines what I feel. It's okay. It's natural. It happens to everyone. It doesn't say anything about me. Not the real me. But this that I'm carrying, it's mine. It's mine. I need to take responsibility for it. And then perhaps that I find that I'm not such a great person after all in every situation. I can be a real asshole sometimes. I can hurt people. I can be mean. I can be cold and distant. I can be really good at pretending to connect, to be there, to be joyful, to be light. Until the trigger happens. And then another version of me comes alive, owns the experience. Because when the projection happens, my inner experience from the past arises and I start projecting, reality looks completely different. Everyone around me, they're not good. They're mean. They have agendas. When that is triggered, when that is here, it owns my experience. I will see and feel everything through that lens. And it can get very dark. It can last for 30 seconds or it can last for years. But I don't know what is really going on. I don't have access to reality because it's just this one thing or a whole structure of patterns that takes over my reality. And I just live in this bubble of my inner reality, seeing the outside through those glasses. And it's a long process to untangle and heal. Learn to discern. But the good thing is that when I keep doing this, when I'm willing to do it, to own my experience and move through it, don't stop it, not stopping, not suppressing, but being here and willing to feel all the way through it. It shifts. The deep patterns take a long time, but it will change. They will lose power over me. They will lose their ability to determine how I act. And in its place, there's more space, more freedom. And small things that used to trigger me a lot, stop triggering me. And maybe to trigger that particular pattern, it needs to become very severe. The trigger needs to be very, very strong. And then I lose myself. It takes over. But when I learn the skill of not going straight to the projection or disconnecting from the projection and going to me, how is this mine? Can it be mine right now? That's where the beauty lies. And that's where freedom arises. Thank you.